Mesorah is not merely a set of rituals performed as our ancestors did. It is the heart and soul of proper observance of the Torah and the life it presents us. It is the well-trodden path upon which we travel, the same path walked by our fathers and mothers, our bubbies and zaydis, tracing back through generations and ages, through the centuries and millennia. It is the path upon which we guide our children as we hand the torch to the next generation and to all generations. Join us as we embark on a journey from Sinai to Denver.
Our Rabbi Moshe, and I don't know of any other person that's given that distinction as being called the rabbi of all of the Jews of the world. Moshe received the oral tradition as well. It wasn't a later addition or addendum or an interpretation, but rather it came hand in hand with the Torah. And it complements the Torah, and it has to go together. Moshe Rabbeinu brought us the manifestation of God's will in the form of the Torah, and by giving us a clear blueprint on how to live our lives, he shapes the future and the past of Jewry and the world.
The reason why we say his Psalms today is because it speaks to us as much today as it did then. The simple connection with God and with nature and beauty. He gives us the sense that every single person, no matter what their level, their place, can also connect to God in just the same way, through singing and through writing and through creativity. And each person, King David maybe teaches us that each person has that special thing to give.
The first thing that pops into my mind is this idea that there is plurality, diversity within Judaism, and at the same time it all stems from the same source.
It was one of the greatest projects in history. Some 2,000 years ago, Rabbi Yehuda, the prince, known as Rebbe, codified the Mishnah. Ever since, it has become one of the mainstays of study for the Jewish people, integral to the continuity of Torah as it was handed down from Sinai.
Rav Ashi was the preeminent Torah scholar of his time, as well as the premier political leader of his time. And he recognized a divinely orchestrated opportunity. And that was that the Mishnah, written by Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi several centuries earlier, was deliberately written enigmatically, tersely, and Rav Ashi felt that that was not going to suffice to guarantee the preservation of the oral law in the long term. And so, because of his Torah scholarship and his political eminence, he was able to redact and gather the entire body of the Talmudic teachings, which are essentially the expansion and explanation of the Mishnah, along with other teachings of the sages, and to codify it, and that is what became the Talmud.
It's hard to imagine someone who had a greater impact on Torah study than Rashi. Rashi's life mission, to some extent, was making the main texts that the Jewish people had accessible to everyone. And he wrote commentaries on the Chumash, the books of the prophets, and the Talmud, which are a staple to anyone who wants to seriously consider studying any of these texts. The first commentary we have to always turn to is, what does Rashi say? It's the same question that a 7-year-old child studying in school, his teacher would ask him, and it's the same question that a 70-year-old rabbi would ask when he opens up a book of Talmud.
knowing how complex all the halachos are, it's pretty amazing how Rabbi Yosef Karo, the Shulchan Aruch, how he codified all the halachos into one sefer. And then what I really enjoyed, studying all the laws and really staying on top of it and learning with something that I was learning new, which a lot of things that I would learn are new, but to learn with somebody from the kollel, their first time learning those halachos, and it was just really nice to be able to learn them together.
The Vilna Gaon was a towering figure in his day, and both in the scope of his knowledge and the depth of his knowledge of Torah. And he taught his disciples, one of the prime ones was Reb Chaim Volozhin, Torah study is the most important or the most valuable or the most, also the most exhilarating activity that a Jew can do. And Reb Chaim founded the Volozhin Yeshiva, which was the father of the modern yeshiva.
Reb Chaim Soloveitchik was the Rav in the town of Brisk, as well as the Rosh Yeshiva in the town of Volozhin. Passed away in the year 1918. His approach to the written and especially the oral part of Torah is a great part of what we have today in our learning. Reb Chaim's method was very hair-splitting and very fine-combing the depth of every part and to try to figure out how many basic points there are in each topic and to break it down into the subjects and topics that we're able to work with.
If we look around the United States today and we find communities, strong Jewish communities throughout the country, a lot of this is to the credit of the day school movement that Rabbi Kuller founded and pushed, and as well as Kohelim and various Torah educators that came from his yeshiva, that went through his educational network, including the Denver Community Kollel, which over the years, including the Roshei Kollel, the heads of the Kollel, and the Kollel members as well, for the most part have spent their formative years at the Lakewood Yeshiva, really soaking up this ideal and trying to transmit it on throughout the country. It establishes for once and for all that wherever life may take you, and whatever you may be doing, your central home and the central home of the Jewish people is the Torah and the hallowed halls where it is studied.
As Torah study spreads throughout Denver Jewry and beyond, as it interconnects with the links of Jews and communities, wherever they may be, the Kollel beckons to the world to join it in making that flame ever brighter.